With episode 9 of The Amazing Digital Circus releasing in cinemas tomorrow and on YouTube 2 weeks later, I thought it'd be a great time to remind everyone to not get attached to your theories. Most of us like watching series or playing games and making theories on what is going to happen next. There are hundreds of YouTube channels dedicated to it.
Hey, I even made a theory for episode 9. Except I never released it because I didn't make a script and so I was all over the place when I recorded it. Which meant there are a lot of holes in the theory, which I will point out when I come across them. This video has a script though, don't worry. So I'll explain it here. When episode 8 released, I saw so many people saying that for sure, Kane is the red bubble at the beginning of the episode. Well, I had thought that the blue bubble was Kane and that the red bubble was Bubble, despite the fact that Kane's colour throughout the show is red and Bubbles is blue. This hinged on a few points, all connected via the thought that Bubble would be the villain of the series/finale. Starting chronologically, in the intro, the red bubble gets trapped after it seems to start going rogue and gets jealous of the blue bubble that gets introduced and consumes it and creates the circus. Later in the episode, Kinga talks about creating Kane and saying it was CNA's first semi-successful attempt at creative AI, and Kane being his greatest achievement as a programmer. Now, as an amateur programmer myself, I've never deleted unsuccessful attempts of what I wanted to achieve. I've always kept it for potential later use, which is what it seems that CNA did with the red bubble. However, I've never called one of those unsuccessful attempts my greatest achievement. I will say a caveat being that I've never really had anything as successful as Kane seemingly was, and in the episode Kinga actually says that Kane was rough around the edges. That doesn't discredit my entire theory, just that the blue bubble is Kane, but a sinking ship has to start with a hole somewhere. And Kane might have been just Kinga's creation, and the second attempt could have been a group effort, and so Kinga wouldn't count that as his own. But personally I think I would, and I think Kinga would also, because he does in the show. He answers back to Zubul saying that he partially created Kane.
The next point is technically a combination of two parts of the episode: Bubble antagonizing Kane and Kinga with the console. In all my time of reading books and watching shows or shorts, I've noticed a pattern when there are two entities occupying the same or a similar space. The evil/bad entity tries deflecting and pretending that they're the good one, or saying that the other entity is the bad one. I have 3 examples that I know well, one that I saw in a short, and a 5th one that is from real life. Starting in order of what I know best. Skullduggery Pleasant. Spoilers for books 1 through 9 with an emphasis on 7 through 9. The basic rundown that you need to know is that sorcerers have 3 names. The given name is the one your parents give you at birth, your taken name is the one you use as a sorcerer, and your true name is the one that gives you the ability to unlock your full potential. Sensitives keep having visions of someone called Dark S who destroys the world and universe. As it turns out, the main character's, Valkyrie Kane's, true name is Dark S, so they try separating the identities so they can kill Dark S before she becomes a problem. It doesn't work, so now there are 2 entities in Valkyrie's body. Eventually, Dark S takes control and Valkyrie reaches out to the Sensitives with a plan to trap Dark S's soul in a soul catcher, leaving Valkyrie back in control of her body. They do that, but as it turns out, it was Dark S reaching out to the Sensitives, and it's Valkyrie's soul in the soul catcher. The good guys quickly figure this out and swap the souls, and the story continues. The second example is from Gravity Falls. Spoilers for Season 2, Episode 2. The basic rundown for this specific episode is that the main character, Dipper, is looking for the author of a set of journals, and finds their bunker, so they go exploring in it. They find the author, but it turns out they are a shapeshifter, and it eventually takes the form of Dipper's friend, Wendy. Dipper has an axe and can kill the shapeshifter, but could also kill Wendy by accident. Wendy gives Dipper a sign that shows him she is the real Wendy, and Dipper acts as the shapeshifter. Thirdly is one that Glitch fans should know. Murder drones. Spoilers for episodes 6 and 7. In episode 6, Tessa reveals to N that a rogue virus took Sin as a host and destroyed Earth, and that Tessa has come to the planet that N is on to find a list of infected worker drones and help them. As episode 7 reveals to us, Tessa was actually Sin throughout the show and puppeteering as Tessa's dead body. Cool as a concept, but I would absolutely shitting myself in real life. Sin actually came to the planet to dispose of the cure for the virus that the humans were working on before Sin half-exploded the planet through Nori and destroyed all other hosts like Uzi and Dol.
Quick recording note, this example doesn't actually count, but I didn't realise until I was close to finishing this video.
The last two examples are less known to me, starting with Doctor Who, the example for which I only know of because of YouTube Shorts. Essentially, the Doctor's companion has been mimicked, and the Doctor has to figure out which one is actually his companion before the planet or ship explodes. He picks the wrong one on purpose so that he can confirm that it is the mimic with the TARDIS, and then goes back and swaps them just in the nick of time. Last but not least was a real-life example. Now, I probably shouldn't mention the actual example because I don't know whether the original person that got blamed actually did it, and I was barely born when that person died in 2009. However, I have seen that supposedly some of the people that were accusing them of the act were found guilty of that thing themselves. Details for which I believe are still only just being uncovered. However, the underlying point is still there. There are so many more examples that I won't include here because I need to get back to the actual point. But what does this have to do with the Amazing Digital Circus? Well, they all have one thing in common. It's that the worst of the two entities or parties try presenting themselves as the better one and try painting the good one worth keeping as the one that should be gotten rid of. Sound familiar? I think it does. Bubble and Kane. Bubble antagonises Kane in his office and makes him appear to have lost his mind to the circus, causing them and Kane to drift further apart than where episode 7 left them, and makes Kane look like a bad guy. Then on Kinga's console, there is something working against Kinga to delete Kane specifically, coming from the line, delete that motherfucker. All of this from episode 8 and everything I've seen in previous forms of media led me to believe that Bubble was going to be the big bad for episode 9. That was until people started mentioning something that I missed on my first watch. Bubble was not in the end credits, just like Kane. Okay, maybe they just want to hide Bubble being the main villain. And then Gooseworks answered some questions on Tumblr, I believe. One of them being, is Bubble alive? To which Goose responded that they got deleted with Kane, meaning that Bubble couldn't be the main villain if they're already dead. So I let go of my theory. Sort of. I've learned that you don't reveal the big twist before it happens, so if the twist was going to be that Bubble is now the villain, why would you say that they survived when Kane didn't? That would basically spoil it completely. For example, there's a reason both Toby and Andrew didn't say they were in No Way Home. It made their reveal so much more impactful. And then the episode 9 trailer dropped, with Jax as the main figure, suggesting that he could be the replacement for Kane and Bubble. Which, after thinking it over, makes a lot of sense. I rewatched the whole show last week, and I will again before both my cinema showing tomorrow and the YouTube release in 2 weeks. I was reminded of what Jack said to Pomni in episode 6. He is the funny one. He does stuff because it's funny. You know what would be funny? If Jax took control of the circus. So I will go into episode 9 with no expectations of what could happen. Realistically, I could see any of them taking the spot of Ringmaster to save the others, like the source material of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, where Ted sacrificed himself for the others. Jax and Bubble I've already mentioned. Raghava wants to make everyone happy. Kinga might feel guilty for what he did. Zubul said they wanted to make a difference in the world, and Gangle could do it so that they can finally make art without an objection from anyone. That one's a little bit more iffy and a stretch. And lastly, Pomni is the main character, so if anyone's going to sacrifice themselves, why wouldn't it be the main character? So, to actually talk about theories, The amount of theories I've seen where people complain about something because it doesn't align with their thoughts is insane. Hell, I've even seen it with people doing it for predictions for sports. These are also the same type of people to complain when the show or film doesn't follow their theory. People need to be reminded that theories are just theories. No two people will have the same thought process because that's how life works. Meaning, there's a good chance that Goose and I don't have the same opinion about how the show should or will end. So there's a good chance that any of what I just said will not happen in any capacity.
So imagine if I go into the theatres adamant that Bubble will return, despite Goose's response saying that Bubble is dead, and Bubble probably being the blue Bubble from the intro of episode 8, and Bubble not appearing in the episode 8 credits, just like Kane, and the episode 9 trailers showing Jax very prominently, and all of the holes I mentioned in my theory. I would be very disappointed if that doesn't happen. If I were like a lot of people online, I would complain online, but I'm not, so I won't. And no one else should too, because that's not the right thing to do. Sure, I might still end up upset, but that's my fault for caring too much about my theory. Even then, it's not my fault that I think differently. The world would be a boring place if that was the case, because we'd all know what is going to happen, and so what would be the point of making anything?
So just remember, when you watch episode 9, that your theory is not the correct one. Goose's is. If your theory is not similar to what happens, don't go harassing people online who did make a more similar theory to what happened. Especially Goose, after all the stress that they said they've been under while making the show. If you think that you can make a better show, go do so. That's the amazing double-edged sword of the internet. It will be found by someone, and if it's good and very well made, it will be found by a lot of someone's. I know this video probably won't reach a lot of people, but to the people that it did reach, I hope it reminds you not to be completely tunnel-visioned on your theory of what will happen. It's not my place to tell you what to do, but it's not your place to harass people who think differently to you. Since the trailer released, I have not looked at any teasers, so I will be going into episode 9 blind, scared, frightened, excited, and all of the above. I will try not to be trying to guess what is going to happen next, because episode 8 told me that I can't do that accurately. It left me with my jaw dropped almost the whole episode. So I will be sitting back and enjoying where the flow of the episode takes me, because I'm sure it will be amazing. I hope everyone else does too, because I'd hate to see that Goose and the other amazing people that worked on this show got harassed again.